Frank about?
Frank!
Who are you?
Francis. Frank's sister.
Hang about. I recognise you, actually. I recognise you. You was a little bit younger then. You could all grown up, didn't you?
It happens.
What you got there?
Sweet.
That's not any sweet, is it? That's the lemon sherbet, that is. Mind if I have a crack?
All right.
Thank you. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
You're not supposed to chew it.
No. How else am I supposed to get to the sherbety bit?
By being patient.
Nah. Being patient doesn't get you what you want, does it?
Half a minute, Reg. Right down.
Is he in trouble?
Yeah, he is. Will you go out with me? I'll go easy on him if you do.
All right. Not for that reason.
Saturday night.
Who are you talking to? You're half-dressed talking to a man in the door. What's wrong with you, Francis? Get back in the kitchen. Finish them dishes.
Hey, this is yours.
Thank you.
What I see here is a beautiful exchange between masculine and feminine energies. I personally need a man with a strong masculine energy to have the life that I want. And when I see a man like that in the world, not necessarily doesn't have to be my man, but when I see masculinity in the world, I always admire it and celebrate it. I didn't always recognize it, and I didn't always take it as a positive thing. But now that I know why, when I wasn't fully comfortable with my femininity, when I wasn't fully comfortable with what a masculine presence is, that's when I didn't really recognize it, or I saw it as a negative thing. So I want to talk about in this episode about the power of masculinity in the world and how much is needed, and what we all understand from masculinity and what we need from it.
Yes. Yeah, I was watching a podcast just within the last couple of weeks of Layla Martin interviewing Mama Gina, Regina Thomas-Schauer, who's the author of the book Pussy. And they were talking about how interesting it is that oftentimes when you're not familiar with coming into contact with men that are in their masculine or people that are in their masculine, it can feel very like off-putting at first. So it's definitely something where if you don't recognize
because
it,
it's such a powerful energy.
Yeah.
It can make you feel uncomfortable.
It can be intimidating. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for men and women.
Definitely.
So, Char, tell me if you've ever had a time in your life when you felt that masculine energy, positive masculine energy, was a bad thing.
I don't think I have. I was trying to think of that. And I think it's mostly because I was pretty sheltered from that, like especially growing up in the church. And I was just mostly around men that I don't want to say they weren't masculine, but for sure, like what you hear about toxic masculinity, that was not something that was present in my life. So I think that's one of the reasons that when I met Josh, it was like he just stood out from everybody else. And there was nothing.
He stands out.
And there was nothing off-putting about his masculinity to me. Whereas other people, even family members and stuff, I was like, what are you doing? Like, really? Like this guy? And then in retrospect, now that I know more about masculinity and how people have had such bad experiences. And I think if you have had a negative experience, say you had a dad with a hand that was too heavy, or whatever, an ex-boyfriend that broke your heart into a million pieces, whatever it might be. But if you've had some kind of a negative encounter with that masculine energy, I can understand how that would just always be received as being a bad thing. But yeah, it's definitely very, very different when you have somebody that is healthy in their masculinity.
It seems like now it's always toxic masculinity. There's no masculinity. It's just toxic.
Right. You're right. Yeah. So since you've never had a negative interaction with masculinity, then tell me, what is your favorite thing about Josh's masculinity?
Oh,
I mean, it could be more than one thing, but like, what is it? Other than the obvious sexual attraction,
right?
What other things are there that you see as huge benefits in relationship?
I think that the best thing for me is that because he's so secure in himself, he is very good about pushing me and encouraging me to be the best version of myself. And I think that's something where a lot of people looking from the outside in, they assume that he's very domineering and that, I'm a pushover and that everything about me is just what he wants me to be, when it's actually the exact opposite. And I changed a lot after we met. I changed a lot very quickly. And I think to onlookers, it was like, oh, he's changing you. Like, well, no, I'm free to
He's
be
allowing
me now.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point, because you do. I've watched you two interact with each other, and I've heard the stories of your relationship. And this is something that I've noticed right away. The fact that you are so comfortable, Josh, with your masculinity, you don't need to hold Char back or me with anything. You allow us freedom to be ourselves and discover who we really are. That is a great, great asset. Thank you for that. I love that.
It's something I think about.
It's not something you think about.
No, it just comes natural.
It's just natural. Yeah. It's normally what I have experienced with, I don't want to call it toxic masculinity. I want to call it something like masculinity in its shadow version. When men are not comfortable with who they are, they will try to hold the woman they're with back.
Yes, that, or they just don't, maybe they won't be as assertive as they could be.
Or that.
Yeah. Yeah, but for sure, I think that's one of the reasons too that women oftentimes look for a man that makes more than them, because a lot of men are insecure, even if they don't want to be, or even if they say they're not, they are insecure if the woman is in some way perceived to be more successful than he is.
Right.
And yeah, for Josh, he's never tried to hold me back at all. So
right.
I'm still working on figuring out how to make more money than he does.
I do want that.
I would be happy with that.
I know, and I know that he is not at all intimidated by that.
Man.
Yeah.
Is that house husband? Can I
exactly. Yeah. No, I've always known that he wants me to be as successful as I can possibly be at whatever fully fulfills my purpose in life. So.
That's true. I have a question for you, Josh. How many times in your life, I mean, you don't have to tell me all of them, but how many times did you experience something that really stands out to you right now? You experience being treated differently because you are so masculine.
Yeah, it's not really something I've ever noticed. It's not something I pay attention to. I think Char notices it way more than me.
I do too. Yeah, I see it.
To me, I'm just oblivious to it. I'm just
So from my experience, feminine energies and masculine energies that are truly powerful and open, people that have them, they are going to be treated differently. They're either going to be absolutely loved and adored by whoever meets them, or hated. There's no in between. You're not going to be ignored. You're not going to be like the guy that never notices you. So this comes from what we were talking before. People who are not comfortable with either their femininity or their masculinity, they're going to want to take you down some way or the other. They're going to see something bad in you.
Yeah, it's funny. The woman that actually introduced me and Char, it was over at their house for a barbecue, when we were in our early 20s or whatever. But I'd known them since I was a child. And I think we met them probably when I was around 10 or something like that. And after only getting to know me for a few weeks, that woman looked at me one time and said, Josh, your entire life, half the people you meet are going to love you and the other half are going to hate you, but there'll be nobody ever neutral about you. That prophecy came.
There you go.
Yeah, he's okay.
She saw it.
Yeah, no, they love him or hate him.
So what is true masculinity? Because I feel like nowadays we've kind of gone sideways with the definition of true masculinity.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask these days.
Yeah, I'm asking you, what is true
It's not
masculinity?
the flat brim hat and the big lifted truck and the running around trying
Right.
to make these huge invisible lats around
Is it the
barn.
money that you make?
Definitely not. But I think that's most men associate that right now. That's the measure of a man. Like, how much do I make? And you see these
Women
men
too.
are so stressed out. They have bags in their eyes. They're overweight. They can't get to the gym. Their relationships suck, but they're chasing that dollar. I just got to make a little bit more. And then, because that's what we see online. You see
Right.
these successful, tall, handsome men, and they're in the plane and they have these beautiful women around them. And they don't know those women were paid to be there. They don't know that's a photo shoot. All we see is like, you got to make money if you want this lifestyle.
Right.
And they continue to chase it.
Yep. How about you, Char? What do you think masculinity is all about?
I think it's largely something that's internal, and it has a lot to do with your own confidence in yourself and owning who you are.
So
and,
is it something
and how you
that,
show up in the world? Like,
is it something that you were born with, or is it something that can be taught?
I think it's a little of both. Like, I think it's something that you're born with that you then develop throughout life. And I think even myself and my feminine is the same. There's things that you pick up as you grow up that maybe diminish your masculinity, but I think that there are things that you can do to develop it later.
Yeah. I think you have to have a spine and don't care so much what other people think. You got to live your edge and know your truth and know who you are. And when you know who you are at the core and you don't care what people think about you, I think that's like the core of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And it takes balls to do that.
Yes.
Most people, that's where I think most people can't do it.
Especially nowadays where we don't celebrate masculinity in any way.
We don't celebrate it. And oftentimes you see it actually going the opposite way to where it's demonized. And so I think that's where we see this lack of a lot of men we see this lack of men that are willing to show up as masculine in the world. I think there's a lot of men that would be much more masculine if they weren't so afraid of being shamed for that, or criticized for it, accused of being domineering, control, whatever it may be. And so I think that's where is the mark of somebody that is in their masculine. They're being true to themselves regardless of what somebody might think, because they know, like Josh knows, he's not controlling me by giving me his opinion. He knows I'm free to take his opinion and do with it what I will, right? And he doesn't punish me for disagreeing or, being more successful or whatever the case may be.
The powerful masculine energy that you have, Josh, is making our relationship possible, our throuple possible. I think we all thrive on it. We love it. And you have made me more in touch with my femininity than I have ever been just by being in your presence. I'm seeing in the world right now this, we've lived through thousands of years. I mean, let me not exaggerate, hundreds of years of the masculine in its shadow side. And we've seen all the bad things that have happened. And now we overcorrect it because that's what we do, right? We want the opposite of what we had before. And it all started very peaceful and very with positive intentions, feminism and equality. And now I think we're on the other side. I am seeing the negative side of femininity. We're not where we're supposed to be. And I want to see this balance. We are meant to be couples. We're meant to live together. We all want relationship and pairing. And I would love to see really in the near future where we just stop hating on each other.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a huge divide right now.
It's a war.
Yeah. And everybody wants to blame the other side. But when we can come together in our feminine and our masculine, it's very beautiful. And I think women like to be led. They want to be with a man that's a strong leader. And 90% of a woman's crazy is just a woman either not feeling loved or led by the man. So when you can step up to that, you'll cut the crazy out.
That's true.
I heard an analogy the other day of about containment, which we've talked about before. And they were talking about the man loves to be the container, right? The containment for his woman. And I think oftentimes that is perceived as controlling, but no, it's like, it's more that you feel safe and protected. And the analogy was an oyster and a pearl. As soon as you take the pearl out of that oyster, it becomes hard. It's rigid and it can't grow anymore. But as long as it stays inside that shell, it can continue growing. It stays soft and it can grow into the fullest possible version of itself. And I think right now, like you were saying, Liv, right now in this world, we see widespread women or feminine energy that's in that hardened state. And we don't thrive in that hardened state. And I think for a long time, I was even in that hardened state just because of the culture we live in.
Me too.
And
Definitely.
and not understanding what this masculine energy could fully offer me. And since I've actually realized that and started to lean into it, it's like what I'm able to become is just like, it's amazing. And I see how far I've come already. I'm like, where am I headed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men love being surrounded by fun, feminine energy. And the only way a woman can express herself in that way is to feel safe, loved, protected.
Yeah.
So if you're not meeting those needs, we don't get to enjoy that feminine energy that we like, the fun, playful nature that women can bring. So we have to meet all those.
Yeah.
Financially, we can't have the financial stress. We got to bring the protection, the love, safeness, safety.
So I'm going to get personal here. And I've always wanted a man like you, Josh. I've been looking for you all over the world, right? I lived on 5 continents. And when I finally found you after like many years of like taking care of myself and being the one that I had to be in charge and in control, I found it very, very difficult to unwire all the stuff that I had to forcefully wire to survive the world out there. It was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. And I think I'm still working on it. And it was so frustrating because you are everything I ever wanted. And then here I am, and I'm like, God damn it, why is it so hard for me to like let go of control? Or why is it so hard? And I wanted it. And it was so hard. I had to because how I see it, when I was born to be with you, with someone just like you. And then life happened. Stuff happened. I met men that maybe were not completely in their masculine. Well, definitely they were not. And then I traveled the world and I lived in different countries and I had to take care of myself. And what does that do to a woman? I became more masculine than feminine. This is why I say when I met you, you brought me my femininity that I always craved for, and you gave that to me as a gift just by being, you. And I don't think I'm alone. I'm not the only woman out there. Like there's a lot of women that they have their careers and they live alone and they want a man. And I think all these women, when they meet this man, they may not recognize him because they're just too masculine. They're not paying attention to the right things. They think they want the money. They think they want the guy to be over 6 feet or whatever. This is not what you're looking for, girls. This is not what you're looking for. Open your heart. Remember the little girl that dreamt about that guy? That's what you're looking for. You have to find your partner with your heart, not with your mind. If you guys like our content, don't forget to share and subscribe.
It was very interesting being an onlooker to watching you go through that deconstruction. Josh and I were so young when we met, I was 21. And I remember even at that young age where I hadn't been through all these years of, hardening myself and learning how to survive without that. But even early on, when I learned that what it meant to not have a yes dear, because I didn't want a yes dear. I was surrounded by those and I didn't know why, but I knew that wasn't going to fulfill me.
Right. Instinct.
And instinct, yes. But it was frustrating too, seeing how that actually played out. Like, he's not going to just say what you want to hear. He's going to speak the truth always, even when that pisses you off. Like, like you hear, like, people talk about like women like the asshole. Like, I think sometimes that's perceived as being an asshole, because you're like
being direct.
Yeah, you're being direct. You're saying like, yeah, no, honey, your ass doesn't look good in those jeans. Like, how dare you? But at the same time, because he's that honest, I also know when he says, you look really hot right now. Like, I know he's being honest and he's not just trying to get lucky. Oh, it's, it's this balance where, you have to recognize the give and take.
Right.
Yeah. It reminds me where we were first dating. I don't think we were married yet. And I took you to a work party. And we were over at the Marine's house. And all the Marines went to the garage and drank some beers. And then we came back to my house and she started crying. Like, this is the kind of man that you're going to be. Because she's a good little Christian girl. She saw me drinking beer out in the garage. I was like, I am a Marine. That's what we do. Like, we get, we drink or whatever.
Oh, there was so much that happened that night.
And I was like, all right, I just like, go home. And then she walked out the door. Then she came right back in. The Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger.
I refuse to go home.
I tell you that all the time, and I don't get it from the Bible. Never go to bed tired. Sit tired.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's a proverb. Yeah. Yes. No, there was so much going on that night. Yeah. It was my first time ever hanging out with men, a group of men that weren't a part of the church. And then I also hung out with their wives as well. And Josh went out to the garage to hang out with the guys, and I'm inside with these women who are nothing like.
I left her with the wolves.
they're all like talking about sex and boob jobs, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't fit in with this crowd. I'm like, if this is the kind of girl you want, I don't think I'm the one for you. He's like, knock it off. You're being emotional. Go home. And I'm like, I can't go home because we're still mad.
I guess that worked out.
I don't know how he put up with me. I swear. Apparently, I was worth it.
Are we supporting men to be the men that they can be today? Or are we shaming them or pushing them into a corner and never listening to what they have to say, their needs? What is the secret to a successful relationship where both the masculine and the feminine are in their full expression?
We hear so many people talk about looking for their other half and, feeling incomplete. And I think that's such an unhealthy thing because we work beautifully together, but we have to realize that we are still complete in ourselves. But when we are allowing ourselves to be in the fullness of our femininity, our masculinity, and realizing that we all have both of those within us, and usually just one is more dominant than the other, and allowing us to be the fullness of what our perfect blend is, we're so much better together. And especially in relationships where you're actually trying to build a life together.
And I'd say one thing for men, it's very hard for us men to get together and surround ourselves with other masculine men and that masculine energy. We don't make time for it. Everything's a priority but that, and it should be a priority. We need to make time for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of men are ashamed for that too. Like, it's like seen as not having your priorities straight.
Yeah, we make sure we have time for the wife and we have time for the kids, and we work, a bazillion hours a week, but we don't make any time for ourselves just to get together and be men and be stupid and drink a beer, make a joke. And,
or if you are allowed to do that, it's only after you've already checked all of the other boxes.
Right.
I do think that there have been times where you've had outlets where you were able to spend a lot more time with men. And I think overall you are healthier in those times. And then you have more to give back at home as well.
Yes.
Right. So you have to be purposeful as a man to spend time.
Great
with other
time and
men.
space for that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's the secret.
It is a secret. Not the secret.
One of the facets, one of the many facets.
If you're enjoying our content, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with people just like yourselves.
Please tell us in the comments what your favorite thing about masculinity is in either in yourself or in others.
And we'll see you next time.